Hey there, it's Jennifer Batten, and you are watching a podcast where nostalgia comes alive. It's Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Roll it.
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Join Jake and his friends on a journey through pop culture of the past, where they interview professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and so much more. Who will they be chatting with today? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Happy here with us. Thank you for joining. As always, I'm your host, Jake Duffenbaugh. And today, as always, our co-hosts, Chris Bixby and Matt Bingo. How are you guys?
Doing good.
We're doing good.
Hello, everybody.
We're doing good, and today we have not one, but two guest hosts. We usually have one. One of them you may remember from an interview we did in 2022 when we interviewed Murray Cook, the original Red Wiggle. Tyler, please say hello to.
And here he is with
audience.
me right now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Known
Hi,
Tyler. We've known Tyler for a very long time.
I've known you for 10 years, Christopher.
Yes. And almost just as long as I've known Tyler, I've also known Cobee, who is our other guest co-host. What's up, Cobee?
What's up? How's
Yes.
everyone doing? Let's get to interviewing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Jake, tell us a little bit about who this interview was with. It was a fun chat, really fun chat.
Yes. Such a blast, wonderful, fun chat that you are about to see. So on and so on. Appreciate for you two to for come here to be a guest host for this episode. Really great. Thank you both for that. It really means a lot. Today's guest we have for today is a guitarist. A lot of you may know her best as being one of the lead guitarists for the Michael Jackson's world tours. And we'll be discussing getting to work with Michael over the years, her solo albums, her touring band, JB and Full Steam, and many more later on throughout this amazing episode. Enjoy the chat. See you then. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Wait, hold on, sorry. Oh, okay, you did it right. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, in 3. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Today we have with us is the wonderful Jennifer Batten. Welcome. Happy to have you here.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Yes.
A pleasure. Definitely
Delighted to
pleasure
have
indeed to
you.
have you here. Yes. Indeed, thank you very much. Glad to have you here. So, to kick things off, we know who you are, but for those who haven't, could you tell our audience a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I'm a guitar player. Been playing since I was 8 years old. I played for 10 years with Michael Jackson on all of his solo world tours, Bad, Dangerous, and History. And then I worked with Jeff Beck, touring and recording for 3 years. I have 3 records out and 3 instructional videos with truefire.com. And I continue to live on a plane and eat at airports.
So, what was your childhood like, and how did you grow up?
My early childhood was great. I lived in a tiny, tiny town in upstate New York. Everybody knew each other in the town, and Beatlemania happened. That was one of my big memories. And
Yeah.
everybody in town was into the Beatles, and anytime a new 45 record would come out, we'd go to each other's houses and play it. And gosh, my sister got a guitar for her birthday, and I was super jealous. So when I was 8, my dad got me one, which back then was kind of odd to get an electric guitar for your first guitar, but I did, and I loved it and started taking lessons right away. So, and then when I was, how old was I? A year or 2 later, the family moved to California. My dad got a job at Kaiser Permanente medical facility. And then I went from this tiny town of a couple hundred people to millions in San Diego. So that was a culture shock.
I can imagine, yeah.
started fifth grade in San Diego, and I've been moving up the coast ever since, and now I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Nice.
Interesting. So, were you always interested in doing music, or were there something else you wanted to pursue at one point?
I remember we had a day in school where we were supposed to write down our top 5 career choices, and at that time I was really into backpacking, so I wanted to be a forest ranger. But
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
for
Interesting.
the most part, I wanted to play
Nice.
music, and I announced to my mother when I was 12 that that's what I wanted to do for a living. And she warned me that it was a very competitive business, which the only reason I remember that conversation is that she instilled some fear in me. And every once in a while, I think, man, I should have listened to her and done something else, because it's has not always been easy, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Jennifer, if you can answer this to the best of your ability, what was your first big gig, I guess you can say, in the industry?
Well, big for me was my first tour. I worked with an Elvis impersonator in the South Pacific, and that was a big deal, to jump on a plane and go play concerts for people. But aside from that, I played with a bunch of bands in Hollywood that were trying to get noticed, but obviously Michael Jackson was as big as you can get. So I went from playing in 5 or 6 different bands in Hollywood to the biggest tour on earth. So it was a hell of a jump.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you're best known in the music business as being Michael Jackson's lead guitar player. How were you sort of brought into that fold? Because obviously, it was the Bad Tours where you started. So, was there like an audition process, or like how were you brought into that whole thing?
Yeah, they auditioned 100 people, and I was one of 2 people that came from Musicians Institute, because one of Michael's people called the school and said, "Can you send us a couple people?" And gosh, I asked when the last possible day I could go would be, and it was 2 or 3 days later, and I canceled all my students because I was teaching 6, 7 days a week at that point. And I just stayed home, bought my first CD player because they were very new in 1987. And I just worked on his top hits because I wanted to be sure that I had them nailed when I went in for the audition. And then when I went in, there was no band. It was just me and a video camera. And so I just started by playing, well, the only guidance I was given was to play some funky rhythm, because that would be most of my requirement on the gig. And so I improvised something, then I improvised some soloing, then I had done 3 demos for my first solo record, and I worked out this 2-hand tapping solo for a song called Giant Steps by John Coltrane that ended up on my debut record. And I played that, and I had been playing Beat It in a cover band, since it came out, 84, 85, something like that. And so I finished with the Beat It solo. And a couple days later, I heard that Michael was interested. They said, "Come down and play with the band and just see how it goes." And next thing I knew, I had a ticket to Tokyo and a passport.
Oh yeah.
So,
I'm actually going to add on to that if that's really quick. If that's okay
Yeah.
with you guys. Can you tell us a little bit? Can you tell us a little bit about those Bad Tour rehearsals? Because at that time, it seemed like Michael was very hands-on, and it seems like that particular tour had a very specific energy to it. A lot of people I've heard say, if you were on the Bad Tour, you say it was the best tour, which it's my personal favorite Michael tour. So can you tell us a little bit about what went into the preparation for those shows?
yeah, those were the most intense rehearsals I've ever done. The first month was the band in one room by themselves, singers in another room, dancers in another room. So that was a solid month. Getting down, basically, we were given audio cassettes from the Victory Tour that he did with his brothers, because that would inform what the song forms were going to be, because they weren't necessarily what was on the record. There was extended forms for extra dancing, and a lot of the songs were much, much faster than the originals. So we learned the songs off the cassettes and got those down, plus learned everything that was on Bad, because that was just starting to be released. I think when we took off Just Can't Stop Loving You and Bad had been released on the radio.
Hmm.
The end of the tour, we went back to Japan with a completely different show because a lot more songs had been released at that point. And then the second month was everybody all together with all the special effects and lighting and craziness and lasers and bombs. And that was in a huge production studio. And we were there for another month. And by the time we left for Japan, we were doing the entire show, like 2.5 hour show twice a day.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I always believe in that amount of rehearsal. I mean, it's a lot of people can't afford to spend that amount of time to rehearse. And I haven't been able to do that since. But the result is that when we stepped foot on the stage in Tokyo, and we were going to do our first show, I remember having anxiety during the day, like, what's this going to feel like? We've been doing this without an audience the whole time. And because we had rehearsed so much that, man, the first note, everything felt really comfortable and just like it had at rehearsal, except we had an audience of probably 50, 60,000 people.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful. So now, you know, it might be like a kind of a difficult question to ask, but well, to answer really. But like, are there like any Michael Jackson songs you got to play throughout his tours that kind of like stick out as some of your favorites?
Yeah, I was like Human Nature.
Yeah.
That was
Oh
my
yeah.
absolute favorite Michael Jackson song. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely
Love that
up there,
track.
yeah. Love
I mean, he
that track.
sang it so beautifully, but also his body movements combined with it and being surrounded in laser lights just seemed like otherworldly. And also, I really enjoyed Billie Jean because at the end of it, I was an audience member. It was just drums and dance, and so I could just sit there and not have to worry about what I'm playing and just watch him. So those would be my top two. Heartbreak Hotel, that was another one that was pretty
Oh
incredible.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my personal favorites. The band
Yeah.
was going off on that one. Really good
Yeah,
performance.
it has a
Yeah.
lot of riffs, some fusion music that was really different for pop music. It was pretty
Mhm.
hip.
I was
Absolutely.
like the really sort of fast. I was calling the cracked out arrangement of Working Day and Night. That was
Oh
always
my
fun to
gosh,
watch.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that tempo was on crack. That was
Oh
just
my gosh.
Great choices.
I mean, there's so many, like, you know, you kind of mentioned earlier, Beat It, and when I think I'm talking about head, Black or White, and you know,
Black
there's
or
so
White
there's
was
so
a great one. Yes.
Yeah.
there's, there's
There's
so many
so many to choose from, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to go on.
Certainly, definitely. So in 1993, you had the pleasure of being Michael's guitarist for his Super Bowl appearance. Let me emphasize this, folks. This essentially changed not just the Super Bowl halftime show, but halftime shows just in general. Like it changed everything for halftime shows. What was being a part of that like?
It was super exciting because it was so different than anything we had done before. You know, we cut songs together to do medleys so we could get more songs in. And it was pretty crazy because whatever rehearsal the band did, we didn't know what else was going to happen. And I didn't know that there was going to be impersonators popping out of the scoreboards. So, you know, if you see in the beginning, you'll see me looking up here just basically with a bubble in my head going, holy shit. So, and so that was a surprise. And all the kids at the end with all the cards that they were holding.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah, for the
beautiful.
yeah, Heal the World,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was
Ah.
beautiful.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's a great performance.
That's great.
And practicing to get the stage out there because you only have the time of a couple potato chip commercials to get a stage rolled out into the middle of the field and connect it, get the band on there, and you have to be ready to go. So that's a hell of a lot of pressure on everybody. But to me, it was fun. You know, it wasn't my name on the marquee. If something went wrong, it's not my career, really. So it was just a blast, really a blast.
That's
So-
wonderful.
So now, what was it like getting to know and work with John Clark?
We were besties. We were really good friends on the tour and remained friends to the end. He was just the sweetest guy, and he was really funny. He used to come up with this character. His voice is on my song called Ass Whoopin'. That's on one of my records. And he used to come up with this character called Theotis. And he would take his jeans and just pull them up high like a farmer and just get into this character that would crack everybody up. So I knew I wanted to have that on my record. Um, yeah, and I moved away from LA 20 years ago, so mostly I would see him at music events, the NAMM show, um, which, if you're not familiar, National Association of Music Merchants, that would happen every year in California. It's people selling new equipment, all the companies, guitar makers and amp makers, and probably 1,000 different companies trying to sell stuff to retail stores.
Hmm, definitely. So now, what was it like working with Jeff Beck?
That was a night and day different. With Michael, there was 100 people in the entourage. It was like moving a small city, and there was something like 20 semi trucks full of equipment that would go from city to city, and tons of carpenters to build the stage, and catering, and just on and on and on, with so many people employed. With Jeff, it was 12 people. There was 6
Hmm.
people on the performers bus, so the 4 people in the band plus 2 managers, and then the roadies had their own bus. And it was a lot. I mean, we really didn't hang out with Michael much. I mean, he would shut down amusement parks every once in a while so we could hang out with him. Or if there was an American holiday and we were away from home, he would have a dinner. I think we had Thanksgiving in Australia once.
Oh,
But with
nice.
Jeff, it was more like a family where we would eat together and drink together and do a whole lot of drinking after the show together. So to know him a whole lot better than I did with Michael.
Right.
And with Jeff, man, it was such a delight. We would listen to music on the bus, and just to hear his opinions of what we were hearing was like gold. And
Hmm.
plus, I spent a lot of time in the studio with him, a lot of time writing music for him. It was, being a guitar player versus a singer dancer, it was a lot closer to my heart, honestly.
That's wonderful.
So circling back to Michael, you've had the privilege with working some of really the greatest musicians of all time, including one of my personal guitar heroes, David Williams. And do you have any special memories of getting to work with him and play with him? Because you would have done Dangerous and History with him, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, he was a wacky guy, and I mean, he did have a really silly sense of humor and a very silly laugh. That's the first thing I think about him. But he was a troublemaker too. He
Really?
was always trying to create trouble, and yeah, and get attention, and so he was a handful for sure. But what a great player, man. He used to saw his pick. He would go through picks. He picked so hard with his right hand. He would go through picks during the show. But what a great tone.
Oh yeah,
That's
for
wonderful.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So overall, can you share any just in general, just some fond memories you have getting to know and just working with Michael throughout your 10 years or so of just being his touring guitarist?
Yeah, the camaraderie of just hanging with people you wouldn't normally hang out with was really great. I was very fond of Ricky Lawson, the drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and learned a lot from
Oh
him.
yeah.
He was kind of a fatherly figure. I mean, he did have 4 kids, so he was a father. But he knew that John and I on the Bad Tour it was our first big tour, and he kind of guided us in many ways. like I remember Boogie amplifiers. John and I both had Boogie, and they wouldn't even give us an artist discount. We had to pay full price. And because of that, Ricky goes, here, he gave us some gaff tape, and my amp was right behind Michael, so it was in all the pictures. And we took the gaff tape and covered up the Boogie name. So that's what you get for
Nice.
dissing us. Yeah. Um, he had a lot of words of wisdom. And here's a little sample of what a great guy was. He had an endorsement with Bose. And when we were in Japan, he asked Bose if he could have a little ghetto blaster system. It was this suitcase with two great speakers and not a radio, but something. It wasn't a CD player. It was so long ago. The tech was so long ago in 1987. I can't even remember what the hell it was. But anyway, it was a music system. And, you know, most people that have endorsements don't think about other people in the band or hooking up the entire band. But he got one for each of us. And we were in Japan on Christmas morning. And he came to each of our doors and just knocked. And as soon as we opened, he just handed this thing to us and said, "Merry Christmas," and then ran away. You know, he's a very thoughtful guy.
That's wonderful.
Oh, wow.
That's wonderful.
Certainly something, especially for the time.
Absolutely. I mean, such a wonderful person. How what he done. I mean, for his career. I mean, his legacy will still, lives on. For a
Oh,
lot
for sure.
more years.
We've lost way
come.
too many greats.
I know.
Yeah, no.
I know.
Yep.
I know.
I mean, talk
uh,
about,
uh,
yeah, no, that's definitely true.
yeah.
Really is.
Yeah, going back to like kind of like before we're gonna start mentioning more things more of your career after your time with Michael. There are like times like throughout uh, uh, your the tours with him that you kind of like, even though it was kind of like a briefly thing, but you actually got to play like a couple times with Slash.
Yeah, it was once, and
Yeah.
it's just like the Super Bowl where I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know he was going to be there that day. We go to sound check, and there's a bunch of Les Pauls where my goddamn guitars should be. And I go, what the hell is this? Because none of us. Then they told us what was happening. It was in Spain, and Michael brought us into his tent to go over the staging, how it should be. Like you start here, and then at this point, for Black or White, you run over to the stage left, and on top of the fans, there's lights and fans below. So his hair
Yeah.
would go like this.
Right, yeah.
Mm.
And then he goes a little too extra on the guitar when the song's kind of like over, when he's like kind of like still playing. That's great.
Yeah, the part I remember, well, I was on the front of the stage a lot longer than I normally was, and I headbanged the whole time, and my damn neck hurt for a week after that.
Oh.
But I also remember at one point when we were supposed to run to the fan, Slash wasn't moving, and I thought, oh God, come on. And I grabbed his arm to help him go to the right place, and it was like trying to move a tree. He wasn't going anywhere for a minute. And then he moseyed on over.
Oh, wow, that's funny.
I gotta mention like another song that I didn't think of that until when we were actually asked about like favorite songs until like actually just now. So sorry about that, viewers who are listening or watching. But there is a time that like Michael also got to do like his, of course when you kind of mentioned with the Beatles earlier, because us, we're huge fans of the Beatles too, where Michael got to do his own version of Come Together, which you actually got to kind of like appear and hit in a Moonwalker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was so cool too.
We
I
shot
love
that for
that.
2 days, and every time we finished a shoot, he asked him to turn the volume up. And at one point where it was absolutely crushing loud, where I was just waiting for my ears to pop and bleed, he leans in and he whispers to me, do you think it's loud enough? And I looked at him like, are you fucking bonkers? It is so loud. But he wanted to like crawl inside of the frequencies, so it could never be loud enough for him. In fact, on all of the tours, there's basically two stages. There's the musicians, and then there's the dancers, and Michael to the front.
Right.
And when I would go up to do solos, or I remember Man in the Mirror, we were all in the front of the stage on one of the
Oh
tours.
yeah. Oh yeah.
It was so
Yeah.
That
loud.
was a special moment.
Yeah, it was too much for me, actually. I've had a lot of ear damage, and that's partly Michael's fault.
Mm. Yep.
How
I've heard a
how
lot-
dare
I've heard a
you,
lot of-
Michael?
I've heard a lot of stories like that. He just wanted everything pushed to 11, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when filming. There's a story about like the Smooth Criminal music video shoot. The dancers were just like, "Holy shit, it's loud as hell." And
Yeah,
Michael's
yeah,
like,
and Thriller too.
every
and-
single take, Michael's like, louder, louder.
Yeah.
That's how Michael is.
Yeah, he was
Exactly.
a really intense cat, man. I mean, he was at a very high vibration. I'd call him a creative tornado, because you can't compare him to anybody, because he had a wonderful voice, but then he was an incredible dancer. And then, all the things that he created that were so one of a kind and had never been done before. I used to joke, because I got this software years ago where you could morph faces, one face into the other for a video. And he was the first one to do it with black or white. And he spent something like $1 million or $2 million. And I joked that, man, if he had just waited 10 years, it would have been $39.95 for that software.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael would spend like just like the most outrageous amounts of money on a lot of things, because like that
Yeah,
belt
just to
that he
do
wore on
those things.
that belt he wore on the Bad tour, and it's obviously
Yeah, yeah.
expensive, but sometimes
Yeah.
you just see him take it off, throw it to the side.
Yeah.
Like you could just get another one the next day. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, he wanted the best of the best, and he wanted to entertain people and have, Barnum and Bailey, the greatest show on earth. In order to do that and do things that are very cutting edge, you pay.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, over your 3 tours with Michael, now obviously Michael has a very lengthy discography. I think each tour kind of like there was a sort of pretty good idea of what songs he wanted to do. Is there a Michael song that he's never taken out that you would have liked to play, sort of a deeper cut, or?
Yeah, PYT. I love
Dude.
that song.
PYT.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Oh,
so
yeah.
glad you
Great
say
pick,
that,
yeah.
because
love that.
I still to
Love
this
that
day
song, too.
cannot justify why that was never played live. Like
Same.
it's a very big song.
Yeah.
It's a great song. I don't know.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
maybe they just didn't have choreography for it. I don't know. Was
That
there
could
ever
be.
a video for it?
No.
I don't think there was, no.
Yeah,
I feel picture myself if PYT ever like perform, I feel like it'd probably just Michael, like just himself, and just the background singer should just be up all the way back, no dances or anything. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and because there were times where like if songs that he was originally gonna put on the show, but just didn't due to like not a good idea, or it's just time restrictions or that type of thing.
That could be.
Yeah.
There's a Michael Jackson impersonator named Michael Trapson, and he's got a show that he does.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
he-
I
got
haven't
a-
haven't heard that name in years.
He's got a show right now based on the Victory Tour, and his show's
Oh,
a
that's
little,
cool.
little bit longer than theirs was. He did PYT, and for PYT, he sent his dancers out of the audience just to hand roses to all the ladies. So
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh goodness.
gotta innovate when you can.
That's amazing.
Truly.
It's a name
Yes.
I haven't heard of in years. Wow.
That's wonderful.
Wow, that's awesome. So, moving on
That's
from Michael, for the past few years, you've been touring with tribute artist Rodrigo Teaser and his band. What about Rodrigo's show keeps you coming back, and what is that experience like for you?
He's crazy good. Great singer, great dancer, and his production. Uh, I mean, you can't really do a Michael Jackson tribute without spending a stupid amount of money to make it good. I mean, I've played with a few that are very mediocre,
Mm.
but you know, I mean, we're going to China next week, and they said that Michael was supposed to come to China and he didn't, so they want him to do the exact show that Michael would have brought. And so that's like starting out with a rocket, and so he had a rocket built.
Nice.
And, and
Mm.
they're doing all these things that are just very, very difficult, especially difficult to travel with. And he's always growing, always changing, always adding new things and new costumes. So that's really fun. But right now, I'm playing with 6 different tributes. I just go from country to country.
Wow.
3 of the really good ones are all Brazilian. Lenny
Yeah.
J is one, and Wendell Gama. That's one that's based out of Milan, Italy, and that's with an orchestra and horns, which that's the
Oh,
only
wow.
tribute I'm aware of that has that many people, and
That
that
sounds
is
awesome.
full of people. So you know, that puts a different spin on it. And Wendell's really great, good singer. And then there's a new one that's out of Germany that I'm going to be doing in Austria for a couple of weeks in October that I haven't played with before. And you know, it sounds like a piece of cake because I know the music, but they all sing the songs in different keys, in
Mhm.
different forms. So I really have to do my homework before I go out for every one of them. And sometimes I'll have an iPad down there reminding me that this is the end to Beat It tonight. You know, it stops and then does this thing, or you know, especially Beat It, they all sing it in different keys. So I can't just jump into a show without working on it.
Right.
I discovered a video of Rodrigo probably like 10 years ago. Like I don't think he was just starting out for anything, but I was like, his production was like pretty good then. It was already impressive enough, but seeing where he's gone for the past 10 years or so has been pretty amazing. And his band is so good. Like
Yeah, yeah. Leandre Gomez is the guitar player there. I in all of these, there's one that's going to pop in 2026. I'm going to play the whole show, but mostly I play 6 or 8 songs. So I'm playing with other guitar players. And Leandre Gomez, he's been with Rodrigo a couple years, and he's phenomenal player. It's really really fun to play with him.
That's nice. So you have also done a couple of solo albums. What kind of inspired you to want to go solo, and what was the process like making those albums? And are there any standout or personal favorite tracks from those?
Well, there's a lot of years between the albums, so they're all extremely different. And I went to Musicians Institute back when it was only a guitar school, the 3rd class they ever had. Graduated in '79, I think it is. Um, and that's just what you do if you're a musician, you know, make a record. So that's what I wanted to do from the jump. And I thought it would take a year, and it took something like 10 years to finally get to that space where I had enough material and I knew somebody with a studio. And in the meantime, I was just out playing live with a lot of different bands. So I wanted to make my mark. And it was at a time where Steve Vai and Joe Satriani had solo records and they were instrumental. So I didn't have to sing to do that because you don't want to hear me sing. That would clear a room in a heartbeat. But you know, they kind of set the pace for a lot of guitar players of as to what you could do on a record, and they got a hell of a fan base that is carried to this day. So I put out a solo record, and let's see, that's Above, Below, and Beyond. And I was actually teaching someone that was an engineer at Michael Cimbello's studio. And so that's how I got that connection. And I ended up doing my first record with Cimbello, who played guitar for Stevie Wonder and produced a lot of stuff. And then my second record, the ADATs had been invented. So everybody could afford an ADAT. It was recorded on VHS tape. So I did my second record, Tribal Rage, in my garage. and had a couple friends. I had Ricky Walking on bass and Glenn Sobel, who's now, gosh, the last 10 or more years, he's been with Alice Cooper. So we rehearsed that record in Glenn's mother's shoe closet, of all places.
Oh, nice.
And
Well, you
she
gotta
was,
do what you gotta do.
That's
she was
rock
a
and roll.
ballerina and
Yeah.
had a lot of shoes and a lot of space. And then my third record, Whatever, that was a result of writing music for Jeff Beck. I wrote tons of material for him, and the stuff that didn't make his record ended up on the Whatever record. And then I started thinking I really want to take this stuff out on the road, but I didn't know if I could afford to take a band out. So I came up with the idea of playing alone in sync with videos and audio. So I got a few filmmakers involved to make videos, but I didn't have enough. And one of them showed me how to do it. So I went bonkers in filmmaking back in the day, where if you were going to download a public domain film at midnight, you would just hope it would be done by morning. That's how the internet was like
Yeah.
15 years ago. And now there's some incredible subscription sites with videography that's way better than anything I could shoot myself. So I've got well over 3 hours of film I could play along to. And I just did a thing at Berkeley. I did a concert at Berkeley School of Music in Boston a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
And you know, I don't do extensive tours doing the solo stuff, but I do enough of it that I keep the material up and keep adding new material. So that's a really fun thing to do. So that was my third record, and at this point, I don't have any plans to make a record, although I did one in the interim that is not really my record, but it's called Cher Batten,
Mhm.
Battle Zone. And that's kind of like an 80s style vocal rock record. That was the latest one that came out a few years ago. But as far as doing another solo record, it's, you know, everybody can get music for free. So
Yeah.
for me to spend $10 or $20,000 and years of my life making a record that I don't get any money for, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I record on a lot of other people's records, though. They'll send me tracks and ask for a solo or maybe more. During COVID, there was a woman out of Sweden that wanted me to record her whole record.
Oh,
So that
wow.
was well appreciated at that time. And I just do things here and there. Whatever comes to my email is what I do. And most of it involves jumping on a plane and going 5,000 miles away.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's great insight, Jennifer. You also have on the side with the Rodrigo teaser stuff and all the other Michael Jackson impersonator shows. You also have your own band, Full Steam. What is it like touring or doing shows with them, touring with them? And how does it compare to what you were doing with Michael Jackson and Jeff Beck?
Well, Full Steam, I started that band because I didn't want to tour so much. I wanted to be home more. And it's an 80s cover band with some extremely talented musicians in the Portland area. And I'm carving out July and August every year just so I can be home and enjoy the summer months at home and kind of get grounded. We do all the outdoor summer festivals, so it's really fun unless it's 100 degrees out, which
Oh,
we've
yeah.
had. In fact, the very first gig that we did this season was a wedding at 102 degrees outside. It was just brutal.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So there's always that, or it could rain. We got lucky it didn't rain on us this year. But
Yeah.
I've had that since before COVID, and I always look forward to adding new tunes. And the band has gotten a lot better in the last 5 years. We keep making changes, and it's getting tighter and tighter. So that's what that band is. And several of the guys have day jobs, so we couldn't tour that. But I'm happy to play summer festivals with them and then jump on a plane and play with other people.
Nice.
That's awesome. So, even though you kind of talk a little bit about things that what you're doing upcomingly, except for those type of things. Can you share any projects you're currently working on?
Um, I'm not. I don't have anything other than touring, and I'm booked to the end of 2026 right now. And
Oh.
well, the project is I've gotten into amplifier modeling. The technology has come a long, long, long way, and I had a well, I have a Line 6 Helix. So I spent about 2 months programming that for my cover band, and it's just too bulky to travel with. So
Mm.
after putting in all that time, I go, I got to start over. So I got the company's called Neural. And the device is called a quad cortex, which is a super powerful computer, really. But you can do these captures of any amplifier and speaker that's out there and take that data and put it in the box. So I got to spend a lot of time between now and when I fly to China tweaking that stuff and getting that ready. And I have so many different shows. Like I have all these different sounds for my solo show. I also do a duo show with my singer from the cover band. We had a few gigs this summer. And then the Michael Jackson Bank is all different sounds. Yeah, it's just constant tweaking, trying to get the sounds better and fatter. And that's my project. And it's a hell of a time consuming thing because every time you download a new amp model, it really takes time to listen to, I have a ton of backing tracks that I've downloaded so that it's not just listening to a sound, it's listening to sounds in context with different songs and making sure that the sound can have presence over the tracks. So that's really my project this year. And I had a student in Austria that I see every once in a while that has booked some gigs for me. I think this is my third tour I have coming up in Austria before this Michael Jackson tribute thing. So I'm going to be doing a solo show, a workshop. I'm playing with a brass band, which is something I've never done before. There's no drums. It's just tubas and horns and God knows what. So
Nice.
that should be interesting because it's brand new to me.
Yeah.
It's fun because I have such a variety of stuff that I do, and every different Jackson tribute that I do has different songs and different people, and so things are changing all the time, and that's a healthy thing in the world of art.
Absolutely.
Nice, wonderful. I'm looking forward for more shows that'll be coming in the near future.
Yeah, so the last question that one of our guest co-hosts Tyler is going to ask is a question we ask all of our guests at the end. Go ahead, Tyler.
For sure. Before I get into that, anybody have any other miscellaneous questions they want to throw in there? Because I have one.
Go ahead.
So Jennifer, I'm actually in a band myself, and I'm headed out on a pretty lengthy tour for the first time.
Right.
In 2 weeks. What advice would you give to a first time tour, I suppose?
Nice.
Wow. Where are you going?
We're going to it's half Midwest, half East Coast. So
Okay. Well, at least you don't have to worry about 220 or 240 power.
it's definitely not a Michael Jackson tour. I'll put it that way. But yeah.
Are you taking your own equipment?
Yep, our own equipment packed into our own van, just going on our own. Yeah.
Okay. My advice is have fun and try to get as much sleep as you can because sometimes that's pretty tough.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Sleep deprivation is it's just really unhealthy, number one. So if you have the opportunity to get some shut eye. Also, I'll tell you something that I always do, specifically to get on a plane, but if you're trying to sleep in a van, that can be helpful too, is sleep mask.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to sleep if it's dark, and I'll show you an example.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There's
Yeah,
a
of
lot of
course.
them that you can buy, and if you get on the airlines, they give you the cheap, crappy ones that let light in. But this one, it
Mhm.
just seals around your eyes, so it's absolutely black. Earplugs is another thing, and
Mhm.
I used to hate these things, those neck pillows. They never seemed very comfortable, but they've come a long way in the last couple of years where you
I
can,
just bought one.
well, hopefully it's one
Oh,
you can
nice.
lock into place because you can actually nod your head and have it be comfortable. So when you wake up, it's not like, who just killed my neck?
Right.
I bought it at Walmart, so we'll see. But
Right.
Well, if it doesn't work for you, there's plenty of other models out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Other than that, have fun.
I'm sure.
Your ears, I will say something about your ears. Ears take 48 hours to recover. So if you're playing night after night really loud music, you will damage your ears permanently. So and I learned the hard way because I'm missing some frequencies from a lot of loud gigs. And I use there's only one company that does it. It's originally it was Sensophonics company that makes in-ear monitors, and they have one called the 3D Ambient, and they've merged with a company called ASI, and you can go on Amazon and look up ASI 3D Ambient, and it's in-ear monitors, which, of course, if you're getting a mix from the house sound or from the monitor guy, you can use those. But the best thing about it is that they have a microphone in each ear. And so you can dial in ambience so you don't feel so isolated. But I use them always. When I go to a show, I use them always. And I listen at about 25 to 35% of the volume that everybody else is hearing stuff at. And every band I play in, every single band I play in uses in-ear monitors. So that's a really cool thing for me. But I do have one gig coming up where I'm guesting with a band that's all old school amplifiers, live everything. And I'm planning to use those, but
Nice.
only the microphones. So I can hear what's on the stage, but my ears are damaged to the point that I cannot play with a live drummer without some kind of protection. And when you have earplugs, you're missing all the great frequencies and it's just not
Yeah.
satisfying.
Mm.
But with these in-ear monitors, you really get all the frequencies, but just a lot less level.
Gotcha.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll check that out.
Yeah, cool.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so what I was supposed to say before that, what I had an introduction for it and everything. So
No worries at all,
because
Tyler.
this is Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. When you think of nostalgia, what does nostalgia mean to you?
Just memories throughout life, different chapters, different phases that you go through. I mean, the Michael Jackson era is definitely nostalgia. It was so many years ago now.
Absolutely.
The last show with them was 1997, and the world has moved on many decades since then. Yeah, I mean, nostalgia can be childhood memories too, or even things that happened before my time that you
Yeah.
see on TV or movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roaring 20s were a bit before my time. So,
Right. Absolutely. Great word
Sure.
to end on. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This is a blast.
sure. All right, thanks for thinking of me.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thanks
Absolutely.
again.
Enjoy the rest
Thanks
of your
very
day,
much. Have a
Jennifer.
great
This
rest
was
of your
fun.
day.
Happy travels.
Thanks. Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
It's goodbye from us as well. We absolutely enjoyed our time with Jennifer Batten. Links to her website and her social media will be in the description down below for anyone who wants to connect or check out her work, or you can just look up old Michael Jackson stuff on.
Or more if you want to check out more upcoming shows that I should be
Yeah.
doing.
We don't give a
Future,
damn.
all
Do
that.
whatever you please.
all
Yeah.
on the website, everything, whatever. Just look it up
Yes,
yourself.
there you go.
Check it out anyway.
But yeah,
To
keep a
hell with
lookout.
all of you. Good night.
Yes, keep a lookout for wonderful interviews coming your way. Thank you to
Yeah.
Tyler and Cobee for agreeing to come on as guest co-host.
Yes. Thank
And
you, you too. Means a
wonderful
lot.
having you
Glad
guys.
As
you
always,
come in.
what do we say, Jake?
Great. Keep nostalgia alive. Take care, everyone. See you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
I didn't know we were allowed to swear on this show until today. So
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode. Be sure to follow Jake and the Happy Nostalgia team on social media, check out our website, and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.